What's going on, YouTube? Craig with ATT, back here with another All Talk Together with my good buddy.
I'm Chris from Shughead Gaming. Hey, guys.
And before we get into it, I want to remind you that when I hit 500 subscribers on this channel, I'm going to give away an Amazon gift card. But I'm also going to give away some extra stuff coming here in the next little bit, so please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. Well, Chris, let's get into it. And today, Chris and I were going to discuss about what I call after purchases, or sometimes I call it predatory gaming.
Yeah.
And what that is going to be sort of like DLC, microtransactions, and season passes. So we're going to start with DLC. So Chris, what are your views on DLC?
So are we talking... We're talking specifically DLC and not season passes.
Specifically just the practice of giving content out after the initial release of a game.
So let's dig into that. Man, that is a very all-encompassing subject.
It is.
So I have bought DLC. I have loved DLC. I guess I feel like we can't really have this conversation without referencing season passes, because for me, the decision-making process does go hand in hand. I very rarely have ever bought a season pass, basically because, for example, if I am playing Assassin's Creed Origins, there's a season pass, and I'm a little gun-shy of the upfront cost when they include that $40 season pass in there.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm not sure, not so much if I'm going to love the game, because a lot of the times these games, I've done my due diligence. I'm pretty sure if I'm going to like a game, especially if it's a long-running series. But more it is, am I going to want more of this game? Like, Ubisoft is famous for kind of blasting the gamer with collectathons and tons of stuff to do, that by the time you're done the campaign in a game like Assassin's Creed, these open world games, I feel exhausted with the game.
Yeah.
That often the DLC offering in the season passes is more of the same.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to buy this season pass yet. I need to see if I'm gonna want more, and I'm almost willing to pay more by buying it incrementally than take the upfront cost and not want it. There have been many times, like Far Cry, where I have loved Far Cry 3 and 4, 1 and 2 actually, but mainly 3 and 4, who really feel like the modern Ubisoft games. And at the end of them, I don't want more.
Yeah, and I agree. And you know what? Like, DLC and season passes are indistinguishable. I think my biggest concern with DLC is not the DLC, and you're right, you know, if you want more of the game and things like that. Like with The Witcher, The Wild Hunt, the DLC was amazing.
Yep, it was.
And I wanted so much more of that game. The problem I have is with DLC and season passes. When you have, and I'm going to use the game Injustice Gods Among Us 2.
Yep.
And I think you've played it.
I have not actually, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Mortal Kombat with DC.
Mortal Kombat with DC. So they released this game, and day one, they have a season pass. And I have no problem with that practice. But what I do have a problem with in this regard is the fact that they said, we're going to give you 9 extra characters. Okay. Yep. What 9 extra characters? What are you going to give? I have a problem with a company asking for upfront money for whatever cost for something that you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
And what I always do when I think of something like this, I always ask myself, would I let another sector of our world get away with it? So, and I use the example of a car. If I was going to buy a $20,000 car, and I went there and they said, okay, you know what, Craig? For another $5,000, we're going to give you in 6 months extra stuff. Mm-hmm. And I say, okay, well, what's the extra stuff? And they say, we're not going to tell you. Yeah. It's a surprise. I'd be like, not a chance. It's not going to happen. And when they're doing like $40 season passes, and they can't even tell me what the extra pass is, they just say 9 extra characters. Or even with Breath of the Wild, which is one of the greatest games, I think, of this generation, they just came out and said, you're going to get extra content, but they don't tell you what it is. Now, you gotta think to yourself, Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, PC guys, they all know what that is. They should I don't like. I find it very misleading. I find it very almost dirty in the fact that the company expects the people to pay the money, but you are not knowing what you're getting.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree completely. And I was going to say in my notes here, there aren't a lot of examples. I've been trying to think about this, but there have been times when companies have said, here's the season pass, here's the price, here's what you get. And they've broken it right down.
Yes.
I'll give you, like, one of the more recent examples was Resident Evil 7. They were pretty transparent with the fact that they were going to have so many DLC drops in the season pass, and that you would be getting so many that were like story add-ons. You kind of got a sense of what you were going to buy.
Yes.
I'm trying to think about, your Battlefield and your Call of Duty games have been pretty, they're pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? They're kind of paint by numbers, DLC.
Generic
you
DLC.
know what you're going to get, but they'll tell you
Yeah.
that you're spending this $40, you're going to get X number of new maps, you're going to get new guns,
Yes.
new vehicles, if that applies. So they're being fairly upfront and transparent with that.
Yes.
So there's that.
But what they do say is they say, buy the Call of Duty season pass. You'll get new maps, new guns. Okay, how many new maps per season pass? Am I going to get one new map when they first launch it in 3 months? Am I going to get 3? And I know Call of Duty usually is, I think, 3. Am I going to get 5? Am I going to get 2? What kind of maps are they going to be?
They're usually pretty, when it comes to your COD games and your Battlefield, but especially your COD games. You're right. They could be more transparent. But I think everybody knows they're going to get 4 maps. One of them's going to be a zombie. They're going to get a couple.
Yeah.
They're going to get a couple new guns.
Yeah.
And some skins. You know what you're going to get. I guess some people don't know.
They've been
especially
around
if you're
for a long
parents and you're buying it for kids.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times, I know that even amongst the people that I know, there's also still a lot of confusion of, and I'm seeing this more and more, where there's the base game. There's the deluxe game. There's the gold standard game. There's like 3 or 4 different versions.
Yes.
And you need to read, because a lot of times you're paying $10 or $20 more for avatars or skins. And I'm like, I don't care at all about I don't care at all about that.
And the new Far Cry has that. They've got like 3 or 4 different versions of that game.
And you literally have to buy the like $140 version to even get the real added on content, and whatever that's going to be.
I forget which games it was, but I know I've had games where even the collector's editions are different in different parts of the world. So you go on the website, try to research what section you want, and you're in the States, you're going to get X stuff. You're in Canada, you're going to get this different stuff. If you're in Europe, you're going to get this stuff.
Well, and don't even get started on pre-orders. And maybe we can talk about that, but that's up to you. That's a completely
I have a very simple way to go at pre-orders. You always pre-order hardware. You never pre-order video games.
Now,
simple as that.
I totally agree. I think a lot of times we put money in developers' hands stupidly.
Yes.
Because why? Like, why are you giving it to them ahead of time?
Exactly.
It's just money off your credit card for nothing. The days are gone for the most part where you could pre-order at EB Games or GameStop and you'd get like an awesome statue and stuff. Those days are I think mostly behind us.
I think pre-ordering for me is the fact that when we grew up in like the 80s and 90s, video gaming wasn't a big deal. It wasn't as all-encompassing as it is today. And you would go to Walmart or to Superstore or to wherever your local game place was. Because, in my hometown, I didn't have an EB Games. We still don't.
Yeah.
And the Walmart would get 4 copies or 5 copies of a game. And you're like, son of a... I remember when the first Grand Theft Auto came out, I had to drive up to the big city to get it. And I had to pre-order it there because I wasn't going to get one.
No, securing your copy.
Now, if I call up the EB Games in the city I live in now, and they say, sorry, we don't have one, fine. I'll just digitally download it.
Yeah.
If it's that big of a deal, right?
Now, I guess when I think of the pre-order, I'm pretty much full digital now.
Yeah.
I have been for a couple of years. Where I do pre-buy games is if I'll open up the game, I'll look at it, and I'll see what they're giving me. Sometimes it's something as simple as a really cool theme that I do want. I I would say that the easiest thing that developers give you, I'll use the example of racing games because I think they're something you're going to hear me mention because they do implement DLC and the post-game offerings a little differently and sometimes I think better. But often they'll say like pre-orders get these 10 cars. And a lot of times those cars will not be available until way down the road, and then they're going to charge $10 for those cars. And so for me, if it's baked in as a pre-order and there's not a surcharge for it, to me, that's a real value add for pre-orders.
And that sometimes happens.
And I would say that it's about 50-50 with pre-orders, maybe a little bit less than that, where there's a really solid value add. A lot of times it is avatars and skins and
sprays and a funny hat or something. Yeah.
One thing Microsoft's done a lot with their exclusives is play this game like 4 days earlier. And I'm like, I'm not paying you an extra $20 for 4 days.
For 4 days.
That being said, I now run a channel, Shughead Gaming.
Shughead Gaming. Go check him out. If you like VR,
go
to him at Shughead Gaming on YouTube. And then what's your Twitter?
At Shughead Gaming.
At Shughead Gaming. Go check him out if you like VR stuff. If you're big into that, for sure.
But I don't just do VR. I do lots of games. There's my shameless plug for the day.
That's
where I was going with this was...
It could be a shameful plug and I wouldn't care.
As a channel and a content creator now, I do appreciate. I mean, I absolutely would spend the extra $20 to get the game early if I didn't get a review code because I have a benefit. But for your average gamer, I mean, really,
I find it's just a way for a company like Ubisoft or EA or any of the companies to get the money from their consumers faster before the consumer can make an educated choice. And I mean, if you want to bring out a current games that were supposed to be amazing, and I can only assume that these companies made a bunch of money on pre-orders still, was Mass Effect Andromeda. That was a game with a storied lineage that was supposed to be fantastic. Nobody, I don't think anybody saw that train wreck coming. And then No Man's Sky. That was hyped to hype. And so many people pre-ordered that game because of that hype.
Guaranteed.
And it did not live up to it. And so in that case, these individuals paid that money and got burnt. And that's why I say, if you want to pre-order your system, your hardware, go ahead.
Which I do, because it still becomes a standing in line situation.
That's right.
Limited demand.
I mean, you look at the Switch. How hard was it when the Switch first came out?
Rather.
It was when the Switch came out, you couldn't find one anywhere.
No, they're still hard to find.
They're still hard to find some places. But these companies think, and they give this, and I don't even know how to explain it, but they almost entice somebody to be like, hey, if you come give us your money first, you're going to get something really cool, but it's not that cool.
Yeah, well, there's no real value to it. But here's the problem, though, and this is the crux of the problem. People are spending the money.
People are spending the money.
They're doing it because we're buying it. I'm on so many forums where people are like, oh yeah, I pre-ordered such and such a game.
Yes.
And then there's all the comments of like, why?
Why?
What? Why? Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, there's just this comfort of like, I got it. I mean, I do pre-order my games about a day or two before release, always, because I often like the pre-download jump. So if I do want to quickly try a game at 10 o'clock at night, I can. Again, as a content creator, absolutely try to get a jump on there if I haven't had any other chance.
It helps.
But for your average person, like even going back years, yes, I would preload a game.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted sometimes to just have it.
And honestly, I mean, where we're from, I don't remember the last time I walked into an EB Games or a GameStop or Walmart or anything like that and walked in there and not seen the game I wanted. I think nowadays most companies, most video game sellers have their shit together enough that they have enough to sell ahead of time.
Yeah, like I can't comment on it. I've been out of the physical loop for so long now.
But I mean, I walked in here the other day to get Bayonetta 1 and 2 for the Switch. Just walked in and they're like, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
They had a drawer full of them. And so I feel like the companies are just better at understanding what gamers want, and they know what games are going to be big.
Well, I think there's two things. One, they have to be.
They have to be.
Because now they have to compete against
Amazon.
the Amazons and just digital downloading.
Yep.
I think probably being the biggest thing, because I think the numbers for digital downloads is like it's massively
massive. It's
taking
getting
over
big.
physical. So your EB Games is afraid of that. They have to deliver. I mean, not unlike Blockbuster, when they saw Netflix coming, it was guaranteed to be in store
Yeah.
when you come in. They have to do that.
Yes.
It is I do believe that it's the death gurgle of your physical copy stores like EB Games, but that's a different episode.
Yeah, but I agree. I think I agree with Best Buys and EB Games and GameStop.
So they have to. I think it's also, there is much less strain on your EB Games because you do have so many people
You have more
that are
competitors.
digitally downloading
Yeah.
that they don't have the people that necessarily. I mean, really, you don't have the lineups. You know, your midnight launches for games is just not a thing.
It's not a thing anymore. I don't remember the last time I went to actually I do. It was Halo 2. I went to a midnight launch on Halo 2. That was a long time ago. And I haven't been back since because I don't see the need. Because they're going...
Exactly.
I mean, they're going to have a copy for me in advance. So, I think we're sort of on the same breath here. Season passes, if they're done right, they're okay. And then the DLC, you know, I have no problem with DLC. But this is going to bring us into our sort of our main topic. And this is the one that the internet has gone absolutely crazy on. And it works out really well because today the ESRB has issued a statement. And that's microtransactions and loot boxes. And for me personally, I think microtransactions, or more so, loot boxes and microtransactions are an absolute plague on gaming. I have played games since the 80s. I think I've owned almost every system since then. I've never needed a time where I thought loot boxes were okay. I've never had a time where I thought microtransactions in a full-fledged, $60, $80 game is worth it. I think, and this is, please, if you disagree or you have anything to say, leave a comment down below. Because I do want to hear what other people have to say on this. But when I think of microtransactions and loot boxes, the ratings board for video games came out today that they're going to put a sticker on the cover saying that it has microtransactions. Now that sticker will also mean it has DLC and season passes and all that. So it is a very broad brush, which I'm not a fan of. Because there is a difference between DLC and microtransactions and loot boxes. But it's a step. My problem with it is, and you said it before, people are still buying it. And that's what these companies are loving. The EAs with Battlefronts 2, sure, they took a lot of heat on the internet for that freaking game.
And I want to talk about that because to me that's kind of a segue from Season Pass DLC into loot boxes.
Ripping people off.
Because we know your take on this.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with him totally, but maybe I'm not quite as passionate. But I think the Battlefront series in this generation is a really interesting series to look at as EA has been playing with different formats. So Battlefront 1 came out and loot boxes weren't a thing yet. So that wasn't in that game.
You're talking the original one?
Like no. I'm talking the original one that came out on PS4 a couple years
ago.
Okay.
Okay.
So for all intents and purposes, Battlefront 1.
Okay.
For this generation. And no loot boxes to speak of, really. But the thing that game had going for it as far as controversy goes was that it felt like half a game.
And it
really felt like
was
half a game. I mean, they totally were guilty of cashing in on the Star Wars name and knowing people would buy it and flock to it.
Yeah.
But when you played it, it was just missing content. I mean, most obviously was space battles just being not there. And then the season pass, just to go back there briefly, it became the rest of the game. You had to buy the season pass
to finish it, and it was and
ridiculous.
To
get all the space battles and stuff. It's like they pulled out so much of the game, and then resold it to you.
Yeah, to make more money because that season pass was what, $40?
Oh yeah, totally.
So
it was full price.
So I mean, you're paying $120 or so for a game that should have been half that.
So so there's that. That's Battlefront 1.
Yeah,
and after your DLC and all the DLC offerings, and they did offer some free DLC. It was a Rogue One tie-in, I believe, or it was Force Awakens tie-in. It was like one map.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was a little bit of DLC. But anyways, by the time that game was done, it definitely felt like what it should have launched in as. It felt like a full-fledged first-person shooter that was focused on multiplayer. Still no campaign. Okay, so then, now that brings us to Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
It finally has the campaign everybody wants.
Single player, okay.
And it comes with all the content, at least a much more full-featured game as far as maps, space battles, etc. And then they come out of the gate and they say, there's going to be DLC support free. Because we don't want to divide our player base.
But it's not free.
Okay, but that's where I'm going with this. Because and I think it was very smart of them to say, we don't want to divide our player base. Because that is a huge thing. If anyone who's played, say, I don't play the Call of Duty games, but for the Battlefield games, you start to notice, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to play online. You're setting up, you're like, okay, well, I only want to play people with these map packs.
Yeah.
And then it's like, friends are like, yeah, I don't have the money, so now you can't play on these maps. It's a huge issue.
Yes,
and it
is a
splits
huge
your
issue.
player base.
It does.
And especially if you're not a huge game, you start to really dwindle your numbers.
In my eyes, the microtransactions in Battlefront 2, they also divide the player base because you will have the haves and the have-nots. You will have those people that are going to spend that extra money to get that gun that's way better than everybody else's, and they're going to play that lottery loot box bullshit, and then they're going to walk over everybody else. So right there, you are ostracizing your player base. Either you pay or you don't pay, and you get destroyed.
But you are specifically then talking about one of the more controversial, I would say the controversial thing that brought loot boxes into the limelight is the pay to win.
The game-altering purchases.
Now we're not talking like Overwatch.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I still do have a problem with Overwatch. The fact that a company is going to make a game, sell it for $80 or $60 to $80, and then have the audacity and the balls to say, hey, if you want your guy to look a bit different, we're going to make you pay this much money. And it's going to be randomized. So you might not even get what you want.
So that becomes the lottery thing.
To me, that seems extremely predatory. And I know the big thing is, like, is it gambling or not? And I've heard the argument, and I have to agree with this argument. What's the difference between a loot box and a pack of baseball cards, or a pack of Pokemon cards, or whatever, Magic the Gathering cards? And my answer to that is tangibility. When you buy a set of baseball cards, you have something in your hand. And that baseball card could be worth money someday. It is an actual physical product that you have purchased. Yep. Yes, it's random in the pack, but it's a physical purchase. When I'm talking about microtransactions or loot boxes and things like that from, let's say, Overwatch, sure, it's only cosmetic, so it doesn't change the game. The game is still as fun. But it does create this self-sustaining beast of people always wanting to spend more to get the newest thing. They can't just sell a game and be like, you know what? Here's our game, $80, you're done. And then every so often we're going to release just free costumes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't have a problem with the way Overwatch did it. Mainly because I don't give a shit about cosmetic skins. I really don't care. And so I kind of liked it because it's like, here's the full game, and for those of you who care about the aesthetics, you can buy some loot boxes. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get the gambling and the predatory side of it. I guess I feel like as long as it is strictly cosmetic, and I mean strictly cosmetic, no player boost cards, anything, then I love your analogy of the baseball cards. I've never thought of it. It really is not unlike the modern version of going and getting cards.
It's not
at the store.
It's very similar. And so,
I mean, yes, there's a tangible difference, but it's very
similar.
similar.
It's our generation's baseball cards.
But the difference. But I'm trying to think of an analogy of the pay to win format would be like, I don't know, getting baseball cards with the chance of like getting a ticket to a real game or something.
Pay to win is basically you want to play a game of hockey and then paying extra so your team has sticks and the other team doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it is straight up unfair that you can have somebody. Gaming nowadays isn't skill based as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the time, it's who buys it and who wants to spend the extra amount of money to level up faster. And then all the other people just either get frustrated or hate it. And I know people, and you may be one of these people out there, are going to leave in the comments say, well, maybe you just need to be better at games. and you know what? Sometimes I'm not good at games. I mean, for frick's sakes, ARMS on the Switch. Burn that game to the goddamn ground. But it's just a matter of you play games for fun. And in order to give somebody that massive advantage just because they have more money, all that does is it hurts the little guy. And I fear that loot boxes are basically infiltrating into the video game industry so deeply that we won't be able to get out. And with the ESRB putting this warning on the package, that's a step. And people are like, "Oh, good thing the government stepped in." The government. I don't think the government needed to step in. I think the people who hate loot boxes need to understand to not do it. You need to hammer all those companies. Not just don't buy the loot boxes, don't buy the game. And I saw with Battlefronts 2 that sort of happened. But EA still made a boatload of money.
Now, what about the people who like loot boxes? There's a lot of people who, I mean, gambling's massive for a reason.
Yeah.
People like the rush. They like the chance. It makes the game more fun if they know there's a chance they might get a massive advantage. And for some people, there would be a massive outcry. And that's something you don't hear a lot of in games media, is what happens if they pulled out loot boxes that had a pay-to-win format in there.
Yeah.
Some people are going to be really upset. So is there an actual genuine demand there?
I don't think there's a genuine demand. Well, okay, there is a genuine demand, obviously, because they're still in there. I think what it is people as at least I am, and I think well, I know you are so much. We're competitive and we want to win and we don't want to lose.
Yeah.
And these companies are feeding off that need to win. And it makes us feel better when we win. And people you can go on YouTube and look at rage quitters all you want. People who freaking lose their minds because they get scored on in a game of FIFA. First of all, I think those people need to get a little perspective. Second of all, yeah, those are targeting those people and saying, hey, if you pay a little extra money, you're going to get this. And you can beat everybody and you can be the king, right? But then to them that's a positive. They're like, yeah, great. But now you got the people who don't want to pay that, and they're going to go in there and just get stomped and be like, well, I'm done with this game. And I think eventually that's going to hurt just video gaming as a whole when you start putting these in. Look at Shadows of War.
Yeah.
Right? A single player game with microtransactions.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
Ludicrous. I just picked up frickin' Disc Jam on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, I know. I'm a big indie guy. I downloaded it. I was like, yeah, this is going to be super fun, super interesting. Microtransactions. And I'm like, are you kidding me? In a $20 eShop game.
And in a Nintendo game.
In a Nintendo game.
Which is something we didn't even touch base on with DLC. No. The Nintendo's jumping on the DLC
they are,
train, who had been adamantly against it.
Yes.
Anyways, I digress, but I'm going to guess that Nintendo's going to be a little bit more on the value add. I mean, ARMS is all free content, and they gave a lot of content.
Yeah, but ARMS is a bad game, so it's fine.
Yeah, different video.
Yeah, different video, yeah. But this Disc Jam game has microtransactions in it for skins and different poses and stuff. And I just think that is so unnecessary. Charge me, instead of $20 for the game, $30 for the game, and get rid of all that shit. All of it. And give me a full-fledged game. Because, and I think this is what happens, and maybe I'm cynical, and like I said, leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree. I have a feeling that these companies make the game, they hold stuff back, and they're like, in 6 months, we're going to give them this. This stuff is... There has been DLC locked on discs before. Street Fighter game a couple years ago had it on there, and they found it, and it was a big to-do. It was already on the disc. And now we have this situation where we're allowing it to happen more so and saying, you know what? Instead of giving me these skins or whatever to begin with, or even just making it a DLC pack, no. We're going to lock it behind these stupid loot boxes with a randomly generated thing that you have no idea the odds of it. And then we're not even going to increase your odds, especially in Overwatch, and this drives me nuts too. In Overwatch, you get a skin, great, you're happy. But then you have the opportunity to unlock that skin again, and you get like 50 coins.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you're talking about just the odds never change. I mean, if you have 100 skins and I unlock half of them, well, then I should have a 50% chance of unlocking the other
They
half.
should start removing
The options so that my chances of getting what I want go up. But that doesn't happen because Blizzard, EA, Ubisoft, and the people who made Destiny 2.
I'm totally pulling a blank.
Bungie. They all are doing it now.
But Bungie's EA.
But that's true. Bungie is EA.
And it's EA. EA is
They're vultures.
They're the one pushing this agenda. That takes me to something I wanted to mention was... So, EA's take, as of recently in the news, is games as a service. That is their model now, moving forward. They're very... Even amongst all this controversy, they made it very clear that that's where they tend to take most of their franchises. So that is the ongoing pay model.
Yeah.
Almost, but not quite. And I think this is where we're going to see it. Is even though they are charging full price for games, I think that they're dabbling in almost the freemium model, in the fact that it's low upfront purchase, rape you in the long term.
Yeah.
And what's scary about this for those of us who are game lovers is that like a brilliant studio like BioWare, who we saw made, a big blunder with the most recent Mass Effect, their new big game on the horizon, which is
Anthem.
Thank you. I was totally pulling a brain fart there.
Yeah.
They have been both, well, not so much BioWare because they're just heads down working on the game, because it sounds like might be some issues there too on the game quality. But more importantly, EA has said, yep, that is going to be microtransactions. And it's like, fuck me.
And I'm out of that game then. I do not want to buy a game that has microtransactions like that.
So then people are saying, like, is this... Now BioWare's into microtransactions, and they've always been a game that is... Their game studio that has offered, like, real value when you bought one of their games. You could really dig into it. And with it being an MMO, it really lends itself to becoming, like, a real whore of a game if they go that way.
That's the problem.
Like, I mean, for example, you look at Destiny 2. They've also recently been in the news because their most recent DLC, again, I'm backtracking a little bit, but
it's all in the same
still
wheelhouse.
in the same house, right? Is when the DLC came out, there was content that was currently accessible in the core game that then got locked out because if you didn't buy the DLC because somehow it was like connected.
Yeah.
And it was like, really?
And that's ripping.
So now they're taking things away from your initial purchase.
But I mean, and this is Metal Gear Solid Survive. I have not played the game. Will not. Looks like a train wreck. But I was reading an article, I think this morning on Kotaku, that was saying that they're now charging for save slots.
Really?
Yes. You have to purchase a save slot. So now not only do you pay for the game and all the microtransactions, if you want to save what you are doing, you got to pony up cash. I don't... Even on a AAA proven game that the next Witcher, The Witcher 4 Geralt's Return comes out, if they try to sell save slots for that game, it shouldn't matter the game. Be it indie or AAA or the best game in the world, burn that game to the ground.
Well,
I mean, salt the earth so nothing grows.
If I buy a game like that, I mean, full disclosure, I'm probably going to buy the physical version.
Yeah. So
that I can actually physically shove it up my own ass.
That's
exactly what they're going to be doing to me.
Yes, exactly. And it's just, to me...
I don't know if EB will take it back after that, but...
I'm sure they would. The EBs will be dead soon anyways. But it's just this predatory way that the game companies are treating the customers. And we as customers are letting it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the government can step in as much as they want. But at the end of the day, the companies are going to do it because the companies are making money.
Mm-hmm.
The government can't stop. At least I'm pretty sure they can't stop loot boxes altogether. They can put an age rating on it all they want. That's fine. But let's be honest, when Grand Theft Autos come out, there are 10-year-old kids getting it bought for them by their parents. So an age-appropriate rating doesn't do anything. I mean, it doesn't work. What has to happen is the gamers have to get together and say, enough, EA.
Yep.
Enough, Ubisoft. We don't want this. We will not stand. And it might take people missing out their favorite franchise. And that's crappy.
And I think Battlefront is an example.
I think
they've suffered greatly. I mean, that game, you go to the streaming sites right now and you'll see how far.
But if you figure they sold, I think they shipped, this is old numbers a little bit, but I think they shipped 8 million copies.
Okay, agreed. They sold a lot on the Star Wars name.
Yeah.
But it was substantially less than Battlefront 1.
It was.
Because people got burned, so a bunch of people didn't buy it. Now Battlefront 3, I mean, we might be looking at a Titanfall 2 situation where Titanfall 1 was another game that launched with no content.
Yeah.
Tried to sell as DLC. Didn't actually manage to do that very efficiently. Then gave it all for free. All the DLC. That was another thing. People were in outrage if they paid for it. Because it was like not that far in its lifespan that they gave it all back. And then Titanfall 2 comes out. Tanks.
And it was amazing.
It fixed everything.
Everything.
It was in the campaign, had way more levels.
Yeah.
Everything about the game was better.
It was way better.
It could not find an audience.
No. And I mean, that could do because of a little bit of timing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, another example of this is just this predatory nature was For Honor.
Yeah.
I mean, a game launched and it was like, oh, it's going to be amazing, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody ran the numbers that it was going to cost like hundreds and hundreds of dollars in microtransactions to get everything.
Yep.
And then when the numbers made it to the CEO of the company, he's like, well, we don't expect everybody to get everything. Well, that's bullshit.
Yeah, especially for a lot of people that are completionists.
Completionists. And when I want a game, when I buy a game, I want to choose if I want to get everything or not the company.
So that's, For Honor is an interesting case study because that game I thought was going to be dead on arrival, just because I thought it had it was a fairly thin layered game of of its actual offering. But regardless of what I felt about the game, its streaming numbers did take a hard crash. But what I was reading in a recent article was that Ubisoft, who has probably actually done the post-launch stuff, they've done it the best. They've learned a little bit. So For Honor has fixed most of its mistakes and actually has a very solid player base of like 1 million people playing on average. So, but that is them having to clean up their mess.
Yes.
They have drastically changed the model and the content offering. Rainbow Six Siege, I think,
did very well.
They've done that game it came out with a decent amount of content, very much multiplayer focused, not a lot of single player, but they have continued to deliver DLC to that game on a regular basis, all free, and they're in their third now season. And it's still continually free. Their player base is very solid. They're in the top streaming games.
Yeah.
However, two things they've done is they have always had not loot boxes, but currency that you could buy because they made it very grindy.
Yes.
So it was dabbling in a freemium model because of the grind. That has been adjusted because people were finding, again, doing the math, and it was really hard to get. Because they put a lot of characters behind a kind of a paywall. That yes, you could earn these characters; they were all obtainable, but the grind was crazy. That has been changed, but actually March 6th, this coming Tuesday, Rainbow Six Siege is going to be launching a new content update, which is a very Overwatchy limited time event for a month. They're launching like a zombie horde mode.
Yeah,
looks, in my opinion, awesome, and it's free. It's going to be a 3 on the horde mode, but that add-on is also going to launch with loot packs for aesthetics, for additional gear, and it's going to be very Overwatch. I can see you're just waiting to talk, but very much like Overwatch, which I find very irritating, even though I don't give a shit about these things, is that it's going to be limited time aesthetics. So you buy these loot boxes and then they're gone.
Because that gives people this feeling of like urgency, like we got to get it now.
Because just like Overwatch, all the things that are in that loot box, you can earn.
Yeah.
It's still grindy. Nothing's changed in the gameplay.
Grindy.
But yeah, it's that urgency of you need to play it like a maniac.
Yes.
Because you want to get all the different outfits, or you need to pay.
And it's funny because people collectively lose their shit on Nintendo when they say Nintendo, they manufacture scarcity. They only release a certain amount of consoles, and then people when they jump on it, they're on it, and they sell like gangbusters. But yet companies do this with video game loot boxes and their content packs, their every season that Overwatch has. Yep. It's only available for like a month and then it's gone, and then you got to wait a whole another year. So people are like, oh my god, I better play lots, which is fine, play lots. But then if you get to that end and you haven't gotten it, now you're like, oh, I better pay the $24.99 for those 50 loot boxes or whatever it is. And Blizzard is raking in the money.
But outside of the aesthetics, though, since I don't care about those, what really irritates me is that Overwatch brings out a PvA mode for a month, and then it's gone. And it was like, the potential is like, what are you doing? And then again, Rainbow Six Siege is the exact same way. This is a limited time event. They're bringing in like a zombie mode with tactical gameplay, which excites me. And I know that in a month,
it's gone.
I can't even play it anymore. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like I paid for it, but it's like, it's just dangling it.
Yeah. But if they told you that you could possibly win, if you pay $50 and you might win the ability to play that for another month, would you do it?
No, I wouldn't, but others would.
Others would, and that's the problem.
Whereas then we come back full circle to the DLC thing and something you mentioned.
Yes.
What would you think is if Ubisoft came out and said, here is a zombie mode that we want to add to this game. It's $14. Because it's not as small an offering as Overwatch. And it is like 3 maps with multiple stages. And
if you knew what it was, if you knew that this is what you were paying for, the DLC would be fine. But I equate these cosmetic upgrades to basically taking a knife, sticking it in myself, and then pulling it half out and being, oh, that's better.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cosmetics aren't better. They're just a little bit less bad. And that's not good. Yeah. I don't think it's good for gaming. I don't think it's good for people, their wallets. And I mean, ultimately, I hope if you're watching this, you're an adult or somebody, and you make your own choices. But I feel like this is only going to get worse.
What you're saying, what I'm hearing is that keeping your DLC or your loot boxes is purely aesthetic is like the gateway drug.
It's a gateway drug.
Taking it up the
ass.
That's
right. And mobile phones have been doing this for years. They free to play, and then you want an extra life or you need some extra hearts or something like this. You can pay 50 cents or $1, and they get you hooked. And these people, they call them whales.
Mm-hmm.
Which, what a terrible term for somebody who spends money. But the companies have the marketing behind it. They know these people exist.
But but then it comes full circle. I mean, here's a recent article from Extreme Tech, and they are saying that EA has announced that their fiscal results have shown a substantial 40% increase in live services revenue compared to the quarter last year from microtransactions.
So EA, a 40% over last year. And
they're not going to stop.
They're not going to stop.
They're going to double down, and they are.
And every game that EA puts out, every sports game, every shooter game, every game has them. And the only way they're going to stop, the ESRB's rating isn't going to make them stop. The people have to say, you know what? This year, I'm not going to buy Madden.
And it is showing up in every games. Even the most recent Forza game had freaking power-up cards for racing boosts.
So now it's not a skill-based race.
Oh my god.
And racing is skill-based. The racing is skill-based. If you're a good racer, you should win.
Yeah.
But no, now you have these people who are going to buy $60 worth of these packs.
Yeah.
Get 50% faster car than you and smoke you.
And you've got your YouTube channels doing unboxing videos of loot boxes. Look, as I spend $60 in loot boxes.
And get nothing. And I get a spray from Overwatch. It's infuriating to me. And I don't stand for it. Right now, if a company has loot boxes, I do not buy them. The loot boxes for sure. I do own Overwatch. I play the crap out of Overwatch. But I am very strict now on... If I did not buy Battlefronts 2, I played it. But I haven't purchased it myself. because I'm voting with my wallet.
Yep.
I'm making a stand, and that's what I hope the people out there can realize, that ultimately these loot boxes, and it's hard to say, is our fault. We let it happen, and the government can't bail us out. Because
some governments in certain countries are banning it.
well, the US of A in Hawaii, they were trying to get them banned. Now,
Yeah.
I think the ESRB is putting this rating, and it's gonna people are gonna be like, oh, okay, there's a rating now that people will know, but it doesn't stop the problem.
But wasn't there something in, I want to say it was Austria or Australia, something with an A, and they were like, it was like literally going up the ranks of the I think government or courts to try to actually like put out an injunction on the sales of these games. Like it's a thing that some governments are really really looking at it from the gambling.
I
and
hope
use standpoint.
that's true, but again, I don't feel like the government should have had to get involved. We as a community of gamers and people who love gaming should have put a stop to this right away.
Okay, so there is a big outlier, I think, to this whole conversation, and I think it's where loot boxes were born, and that is the freemium free-to-play model
On phones.
which is very much mobile,
Yes.
but is now very much getting it into the console world. I mean, you can say it with one game, and that would be Fortnite, especially
Yeah.
with Battle Royale.
Fortnite and PUBG.
It's
maybe
PUBG is a play
Sorry.
game, but
Yeah.
Fortnite is a free-to-play game.
That's right.
And they're absolutely destroying PUBG's live numbers, destroying their live numbers. That's a game that, when Fortnite first came out, it was like, here, it's early access.
Yeah.
It's free, but it's super grindy.
Yeah.
Then they're like, but we're gonna launch a full version, and when the full version comes out, the game will be totally free, and it'll be all monetized through microtransactions. Whereas I believe when it first launches early access, you could buy a pack for like a full game price that gave you less grind.
Yeah.
Anyways, there was a mixed bag, which all went out the window when they launched Battle Royale, and that became like the only Fortnite that anyone plays. Yeah. Totally free to play, totally microtransaction. I believe it's all aesthetics, but still, that is the only thing funding that game.
Yeah. I still don't like it. Release a game, let me pay for it. I don't want to have to pay, and I don't understand this too, why people will pay money to make a game less playable.
True, but the other problem is the perceived value. I mean, that's a different conversation. But when a game comes out like Fortnite, and it's free.
Yeah. But it's not free.
No, but the perception is that it's free.
The free is the gateway to get you in and get you hooked on that drug.
But
it's no different than a dealer going to a guy saying, here's your first hit of Coke for free.
Yeah,
but
the perceived value, and a lot of people don't spend money on it. I would say the majority of people don't spend money on it.
But the people who do spend
they're funding the game.
They're funding the game multiple times over.
I know they are. I mean, the freemium model is never a good deal.
No, it's not.
I mean, I guess for me, when I have played freemium games, I have said I'm not paying.
Yeah.
And then there was one game. It was a racing game on my tablet, and I was out of town and I was desperate for entertainment. And I was like, okay, what is this worth to me?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this game is worth $20 for me. I will pay $20. So I bought $20 because the grind was getting to me.
Yeah.
I got one car.
For $20.
I had some left over, but again, those currency packs are definitely designed so that you're uneven. And I bought one car and some performance upgrades, I believe. And I stood there and I was like, oh my god, there's 100 cars in this game.
That's right.
With like 80% of them behind a paywall. And I'm like, I have Forza at home with 500 cars for $80.
Exactly.
And I have the whole game.
And
I was just like, oh my god, they're making so much money.
So much money.
And you want to guess who the publisher was of that game?
Let's guess. AE or EA?
Yeah, that sounds
EA,
familiar.
That's because they're rat bastards.
I believe it was called Real Racing. The game,
yeah.
So
don't buy it. It's a ripoff. Anyways, all right, guys. Well, I think that's just about done for us. I have nothing else to say. You have anything else to say?
I don't know. Let me check my little notey poos here.
Little notey poos.
I'm on a link here. Yep.
All right.
You know what? I guess Yeah, that's about it. Oh, that was the only thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
And again, it is another style that companies have gone with. Kind of more on the DLC train, but okay. So Battlefield, I don't know if Battlefront's doing this because they're both dice games, but because I won't buy them with what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
But Battlefield, all the Battlefields, I believe, like 3, 4, Bad Company, and then also Battlefield 1 have done this. That eventually, down the life cycle of the game, maybe a month in, they have done it so that the grind for guns, you can spend $8 in, like, say, an assault class, and they'll unlock the whole class. They don't launch with it.
No.
So you have to grind, but after about a month or so, for those who don't want the grind, or they're coming to the game late, or they're people with children and they just can't invest the time, here's a cheat. Here's basically, how do you feel about that?
To me, that is again just another way of them screwing you out of money. If the companies were that concerned about your well-being, they would make a better algorithm to match you with people that are of the same level as you. But they're not.
I don't think that's the problem. I think it's more just that part of the fun in those games, for me, definitely is the unlocking. It is the grind. Like I always say, I love the grind.
As long as the grind is done well.
But then I'm always bitching about the grind.
Yeah.
But like I love the grind. A lot of times in those games, once I've unlocked everything that I want, my interest in the game just drastically dive bombs.
Yeah.
So I don't want them to get rid of that grind. I like it.
Yeah.
But then how do you also cater to your fan base that doesn't have the time? And that is huge. That is a complaint. So
then that fan base that doesn't have the time should be matched with other fan bases that don't have the time.
Well, you're talking about competitively having an advantage. What I'm saying is that what about those people who, not necessarily competitively, but just want more guns? They just want more stuff to have fun with, not to have a competitive advantage. They just want it and they don't have the time.
They should make the game less grindy.
But then I like the grind.
But I mean, there's to me there's an acceptable amount of grind.
Yeah,
and there's an unacceptable amount of.
So
grind.
what they're letting you do is they're letting you pay to not grind.
So you're paying extra money to have less of the game. Can't necessarily fault the companies, I guess, because it's business and they're in the business to make money, and I understand that. But I feel like they're abusing the gamers. They're looking at us and saying these guys will buy whatever we throw out. And Battlefronts 2 was a good example that some people aren't going to. Mm-hmm. But I think there needs to be more of a collective stand from gamers, or else this is going to get worse. Because, and sorry, who makes Rainbow Six again?
Ubisoft.
Ubisoft is going to see the numbers of Rainbow Six and say, hey, these people bought... Or no, it wasn't Rainbow Six, sorry, it was Battlefield you said did this.
With the buying the gun?
Yeah.
That would be the Battlefield series, yep.
Battlefield.
Probably the Battlefront series if you went into the DLC stores.
The company that makes this, all they're going to do is look at it and say, hey, these people paid for this. They're going to pay for this too. And they're going to push that envelope more and more and more and more until one of two things. Either it becomes commonplace in gaming, which...
Well, it is now.
I hope it does. I hope some manufacturers aren't doing it.
Not many. Like you said, you're seeing it in single-player games now.
But I mean, you look at The Witcher, Wild Hunt.
Which is like 2 or 3 years old.
It is. It didn't have it. Monster Hunter, the new Monster Hunter game, doesn't have it. None.
Interesting.
Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't have it.
No, but then that is a game that had a season pass and didn't outline what was what.
That's true. So, I mean, that's a problem there.
So,
but there were no micro... So there are certain companies that are still going with the DLC route, which... Okay, but they're not going with this loot box grinding, artificially making it challenge. I mean, you like the Dark Souls series. I find the Dark Souls series okay. Imagine for a second if Dark Souls, if From Software threw in microtransactions. The absolute shitstorm that would come from that.
Yeah, and but you can see, see how easy it would be to put it in. Getting your ass kicked. Pay to not
$3, you beat the boss one hit. Yeah, but
what they would do is they would charge you so that you could buy like consumables.
That could work.
That's how they do it.
More Eustace flasks or Estus flasks.
Yeah, exactly.
And they could do it, but they choose not to because they put out a game and they stick by the content of that game and they're done. And yeah, they do some DLC after the fact and they don't tell you, and I'm not a fan of that, but I would take that a million years before I bought a loot box or a microtransaction like that in a game.
I think From Software is smart enough to know that that would be game breaking.
It would be game breaking.
But
it should have been game breaking in Shadows of War.
But for people like you who have to turn into big babies when you start playing the Dark Souls series and you got to put on your diapers.
What a stupid game.
I could see you just like, yep.
But I wouldn't.
I need to pay to get through this.
I wouldn't because I don't care enough about any game that I'd pay extra money to do it.
But there is a market there is what I'm getting at. I could see those. I mean, Jesus.
They would make a ton of money, I bet.
Bloodborne 2.
Frickin' right.
Just saying.
Frickin' right.
Hopefully EA doesn't
get their fingers in there.
Get their hands as a publisher.
I agree. All right, YouTube. Well, I think that's about it for us. Again, my name is Craig.
And I'm Chris from All...
From All Tech Together?
Can we edit that out?
Sure we can.
I'm Chris from Shughead Gaming.
And I'm Craig from All Tech Together. We'd love to hear your guys' comments. So leave comments down below on my channel. Head over to Shughead Gaming. Leave comments on his channel. We're usually in contact with each other anyways, but we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this down below so that maybe we can do a part 2 of this video and really start yelling at each other or something.
And guys, as small channels, I think something that Craig and I have both definitely realized is that hitting that like button and the subscribe button...
It's a massive help.
I know everybody asks for it, but for small channels like us, the big thing is when you hit like and you hit subscribe, it's pretty much the only way that we get onto people's recommended tabs on their YouTube.
Yeah.
So for small channels like us, just desperately trying to like poke our heads up amongst the clutter, if you like what you're watching and you want to see more, please by all means
give us the support.
If you want to see these faces more, go nuts.
Yeah, give us that support, guys. We'd love to hear from you. And again, 500 subscribers, I'm going to give away that Amazon gift card, and I'm going to look at giving some other stuff away here in the next few weeks, I hope. So please hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Later, guys.